Hey, so as you've gone through your orientation course, it's been kind of a wild week with a couple of snow ice days. And I thought there was a couple of things that I just wanted to check in with, make sure that you know about before we go into tomorrow where I open up the course content. Some of you were able to find a back way in, but I closed that down just so that everybody's getting the same content at the same time. So there's a number of things that I wanted you to know about. The very first one is linking your Google account. So I know some of you indicated that you're not a huge fan of Google, but within this, there's still the option. And in order to be able to hand something in from Google, you have to activate your account. So I'm impersonating a student here, which is a function that I have where I can impersonate you or even look at your progress. And for this particular student, they haven't accessed their Google Apps account. So what this means is that it's not linking your board account because you're enrolled through the HPEDSB, and it's not linking it to this, so it's not able to communicate with you. It's very important that you activate it and that you link it within Google Apps. So you can actually just go into Google. Your apps account was the address that was provided. It's the first two initials of your name, three numbers in the middle, the first two initials or letters of your last name, and then at apps.hpdsb.on.ca. You were given passwords that if your password is not working, please email me. I have alternate passwords that might work as well. So the first step is logging in. The second step is making sure that you link your Google Apps account so that you have access to email and that you have access to potentially using Google Apps in order to hand in assignments within the VLE. All right, so there's a number of things that I wanted to go through. Number one, make sure that you link and set up your Google account within the app system. That's just the Google account that our board was given, and then link it within there. As I was talking about, I'm able to impersonate you, so I can actually go into your account, and sometimes if a student is having difficulty doing something within their account, that I can actually go in and do it for them, or I can just find out what's going on or what it looks like from your perspective, which is very helpful for me as an instructor. The other thing that I can do and that I have been doing is checking your progress. So if you logged in, it identifies in the VLE that you have logged in. However, what it does do is it also tells me what you've been clicking on. So if you haven't done the orientation course, aside from just checking the drop boxes that all of you were required to do a drop box and a discussion and even email me, if you haven't done those things, I can actually look at your progress, see what you're clicking on. And there's a number of you that have just logged in, made sure it was all there and did nothing with it. So it's very, very important that you understand that your grades and your progress is not just monitored by when you log in, but that I can actually see what you're doing. All right, so those are some key things about how to use the program, or in terms of your use of it and how you can make the most of it. Another thing that a couple of you were asking me about, because I talked about the ongoing notebook journal in both courses. So I'm doing this video for both courses, and I may differentiate a little bit later on, that many of you said you didn't like Google Apps, and I understand that. That's totally okay, your preference. But just as a reminder, I am a PC user, not a Mac user. So certain programs within Mac don't work on my computer, that I can't open your document. If you are able to save those as a PDF, then I will be able to read it. But for the most part, if you're making a slideshow presentations within a Mac program, that I'm not able to open it, therefore not mark it. So if you can just think about that in terms of the programs that you want to use, that would be greatly appreciated. All right, so some other things that I would like to guide you towards I have yesterday used my time to set up the drop boxes, set up the grade items and the discussions. So you should see that they've changed dramatically in terms of when you click on these icons. So there's some things that I just wanted to bring your attention to. When you look at a Dropbox and you see this little icon, that means that it has Turnitin.com attached to it. That is a program that is often used in universities, and my husband, who's in the military, is also using it within his online course within the military. Turnitin.com is used so that you turn in your assignment and it checks it against other students in the classroom, but it also checks it for plagiarism. So it is very, very important that if you have information about your course from another student, that they've given you notes or they've given you whatever, that Turnitin.com keeps all of those notes. So if a previous student has handed it in and then you're handing it in again, it's going to give me a high percentage rate of being copied because it still has the other assignment. So I just wanted to give you the heads up on that, that is a program that is commonly used within the e-learning frame. Okay, so going through the list here, I have set up the calendar. So I've done it in EWC, which is the Writer's Craft. I haven't completely got through HHS, the Families in Canada, and I will be doing that later on today. Those drop boxes and everything are already set up. I just have to set up the due dates and go through that. So because this course was the first one, it kind of took precedence just in terms of me making sure that I've got my head around this course and the schedule. Now, these two courses, if you've taken a course with me before, if you've taken HHS, these two courses are so vastly different. EWC is going to have things that you have to do almost every day. So the schedule is a little bit different, whereas in HHS, you'll find that most assignments will be 2 or 3 assignments and you hand them in all at the same time. So the schedule looks a little bit different. So something that I wanted to bring your attention to on the course homepage, I communicate through the newsfeed, which is where you're finding this particular video. And so when I updated all the due dates for the discussions as well as the drop boxes, you'll actually see here on the calendar that there are dates that are identified. So you can actually click on them when you open up this. If this is minimized like that, you can actually open it up and you'll actually see the assignments listed here as to what's due on those dates. In addition to that, these become Dropbox links. So if this works properly, then you can actually add to the discussion straight from there. From here, you can also see that what I've done is I've updated the Dropbox and discussion descriptions so that in addition to knowing when it's due, you know exactly what the assignment is that's due. You can access this in the content under each activity, but there's a number of ways to access them. So if I wanted to know what assignments are due, I'd go to the newsfeed. In EWC, I'm going to have a weekly calendar that looks like this. And these are recommendations. Some of you will work ahead, but it's to know when the due dates are, as well as my responsibilities and your responsibilities and what you can be working on every day. So these are going to be posted weekly, in addition to knowing on the course homepage when the due dates are listed in the calendar. Okay, so in addition to that, the Dropbox and discussions, you can link them there. So you can find all the information in the assignments and the content, Dropbox discussions. You can find the assignments in the calendar and in the upcoming events below that actually link it there. You'll also notice in the grades that I've updated the grades that you can actually see. Now there will be some changes that continue to happen here as I go through. And as it continues to be updated, you'll actually be able to see the grades that are attached to you, and you'll be actually able to see out of this what mark you get. So You can check for feedback both here and here, but you can actually also check the grades. That's where you're going to find what you got, but also feedback, and link it to. The Dropbox will also have feedback for that. I'm going to have a second video for you that describes how to check your grades and how to get that information. Okay. So I'm going through my list. So now we've talked about how there'll be a calendar and a schedule, and it's very important to pay attention to those. On those grades lists, you'll actually start to see codes that look like this. So in order for me to differentiate between the assignments, I've actually given them codes, just so that you know. U1 stands for Unit 1. A3 stands for Activity 3, and D will stand for Discussion, A will stand for Assignment. So when you start seeing these, that you can actually start linking it. I've named them as well, so you don't have to necessarily go back through the content and try and figure out which is which. However, you will see these codes in the schedule. It will just be listed as A3, D2, etc. But that's what those stand for: unit, activity, which is differentiated in each unit, and then the assignment that's due and what type of discussion or assignment it is. So moving on into discussions, there's one more thing that I wanted you to know about discussions. So there are many times when discussions will, from your list, completely disappear, or that they will be locked. So it's very important to pay attention to those locked and unlocked dates. I've made all discussions available starting tomorrow or even tonight at 11:30, so you can start looking through content tomorrow on Friday. There's still some people logging in and figuring out the system. So when you look at the discussions, you'll see that it's available, that it is unlocked starting today at 11:30 p.m. and that it is locked. So that means you cannot post past Wednesday, February 13th at 8 p.m. So this means also, if you see this little ticking clock, this particular discussion will disappear. You won't even see it in your list anymore. There are times when we don't need a discussion anymore, and there are times when we need to access a resource over and over and over again, that you'll be asked to go back to the discussion, figure out this, or that your teacher will compile something. This one will be locked, but it will not disappear from the list. So if you find discussions disappearing, that's why. If you find that you can't post in a discussion, that's why. Is it because if you can't post in it, it's been locked and you've missed the due date. There are very time-sensitive discussions that we need to have, so it's very important to post before that final time. All right, so very, very quickly, just wanted to go through this. There were some people who found their way in, and that's totally okay. They've already posted in that first discussion. You're not behind the 8 ball if you haven't done that. If you go into the discussions and you're to reply to this one, probably by the Tuesday when we get back next week, that this is when this one's due in particular. If you want to start your own post, which you're required to do, you can start a new thread. If you want to follow one, you can do that. You don't necessarily need to do that, but you can. If you wanted to post or reply to someone's post, then you simply click on their heading and reply to their thread. Okay, so up here is posted what the original post was about, and then you can reply to what they were talking about. One more reminder about discussions is that you have an ongoing writer's journal or journal notebook, and that sometimes discussions disappear or that it's hard to find them. It is very important that I highly recommend that you post your discussion in your ongoing journal notebook, and then copy and paste that into the thread, just so that you have a copy of it yourself. If it disappears, if it doesn't post, that you don't have to start all over again, and that you have documentation as to what you've been doing. Last but not least is a grades and feedback video, which I will post in just a minute. It's from last year, so you might hear some information that doesn't really relate, but it shows you how I grade, how I mark, and where you can find your assessment. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to email me or contact me. I have a big day of where it's a snow day, and I'm just going to go through emails and make sure that both courses are set up and ready to go for tomorrow. So hope to hear from you. If I don't, I'll take it as you know what you're doing. So I'll see you tomorrow.